second episode of our broadcast series. My name is Vivienne Mutembwa and I'm your host for today. Just before we kick off, I just want to note that we will be recording this session for future use. As we're kicking off the session, I also want to introduce Privasec for those of you who are new to the broadcast series. So Privasec, we are information security partners and we specialize in both GRC and technical services. So two main service lines are Privasec GRC, where we have our governance, risk and compliance services. And then we have Privasec Red, which is where we have our red teaming and penetration testing. We have a presence across Australia as well as in Asia, and our client base is both government and private sector across different industries across the globe. So thank you again for joining us today. So for the session today, I have with me my colleague, Reshmi, and we're going to be touching on cybersecurity health checks. So Reshmi, just to dive straight into it, obviously I need to introduce you. Reshmi has a wealth of experience when it comes to health checks. She's worked with both private and public sector clients, helping them to execute their cybersecurity strategies, and she's based in our Sydney office under the GRC services. So over to you, Reshmi. The first question is, what is a health check?
Before I jump on to that, good question, Vivienne. Good to start with. Welcome everybody and good afternoon. With my experience of working in this industry, I hope to share some of the insights that I've picked up along the way, and I hope it's useful to you as well. So what is a health check? It's basically what the name says it is. It is essentially assessing the health of your business, not from merely an IT security perspective, but overall looking at the business operations from a holistic perspective. And we try to identify the immediate risks and weaknesses in your business and see how you can put in place a practical roadmap so you can reach where you want to be from what you are today.
So essentially, it's not just looking at the IT function. You're looking at the business as a whole, at the people, process, and technology, and how the information flows. Okay, great. So what would then be the benefits of a health check, a cybersecurity health check?
Yep, that's a very valid question. So one of the benefits that I can think of is that it helps you with the decision-making process. Once you know what your risks are and what your weaknesses are, you're better equipped to take the right decisions for your business. And in the recent environment that we are all in, everybody is aware that the security expectations from all of the industries across multiple businesses are ever increasing. The expectations could be from your customers in protecting their personal information or their sensitive information. It could be from the service providers, and it could be from regulators as well. So there's this constant demand of trying to increase your security posture. So that's one of the benefit you would achieve by actually doing a cybersecurity health check. And it adds to a lot of competitive advantage and preventing any breaches that you might have in the future if you stay tuned to your pulse, your health of the security posture. And most importantly, I would like to say it helps you save money. Now you might wonder, how can spending money help you save money? Yes, you heard it right, because many a time what we come across is when you look at various client organizations, they end up spending a lot of money in tools and technologies that they don't really need because they think that it's going to keep them secure, which is sadly not the case. So spending money is okay, but knowing where to spend is the challenge, and health check could be the key to unlocking the challenge.
That's great. Thanks, Reshmi. So essentially, we're looking at health check as being an investment for the organization.
Right, absolutely.
So then how do we do a health check? Is it something that's done by external resources? What is the process involved?
Right. It's much simpler than many might think, right? So when we do a health check for any of our clients, we come in as your information security partners, either internal advisors or the trusted security partners, and we try to understand the kind of information that you deal with on a daily basis, what
Mm-hmm.
that information could be, whether it's personal information of your client, how sensitive that information is, and it could be your IP and any information that holds value to your business. And we try
Yeah.
to map the information flows, how the information comes to you, how do you process the information, how do you store the information,
Mm-hmm.
who are the third parties handling the information on your behalf, and how do you delete it at the end of the life cycle. And then
Yeah.
once we map out the flows of the information, we try to understand, are there any security controls in order to safeguard the information? Are those
Mm-hmm.
security controls sufficient enough, or are you having any inherent deficiencies in there?
Mm-hmm. 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 Great. So when would you say is the right time to do a health check?
That's an interesting question. I would say it was yesterday. This comes from my experience of working with multiple clients and
Yeah.
enterprises, including small businesses as well. I
Mm-hmm.
can tell you from my experience that the sooner you do a health check, the better is for your business.
Okay. And then in terms of when you are looking at conducting that health check, are there any specific standards that you use? Are they dependent on what the client or the business selects?
So when you do an actual health check, you will be looking at security best practices, and as you're aware, the security best practice controls are mostly common across all the frameworks that we choose, whether it is
Uh-huh.
ISO 27001,
Uh-huh.
NIST, CIS controls, etc.
Uh-huh.
Most of the standards are doing a slice and dice of the security controls,
Uh-huh.
but pretty much covers it pretty much covers all the controls in all of these frameworks. So it's up to you what framework to choose, but we at Privasec generally choose the globally accepted security best practice standards like ISO 27001 Annex A and ISO 27002 best practice guideline, because it is high level enough to cover all your security domains, and it can be easily mapped to any other security framework that you might be looking at. And when you look at some of the specific markets like the US, clients are particularly interested in getting a health check done based on NIST, which is fine, and we do that as well. And in some of the cases, clients could have a specific requirement of doing a health check against CIS controls or APRA requirements, etc. So that's all possible. You can tailor it as per the requirements of the clients.
So we did touch briefly on why you would conduct a health check, but what are also some other common reasons that you've seen are sort of flagged for performing a health check?
Right, that's a very good question. It sometimes it varies depending on the geography you're based in, but in Australia over the past few years, health checks have been quite mainstream, and with so many businesses, new businesses coming online, it's actually a key to help implement the right strategy. Some of the common reasons I've seen is when a business is considering to go to a newly regulated market, a highly regulated market, where the security expectation is high and the business doesn't know where to start, the right place would be a health check so that they can define the right strategy to go where they want to be. Another scenario is that compared to your peers in the industry that you operate in, if you're trying to uplift your security posture and you don't know again where to start, a health check would be the right place to start so that you are better equipped to take the right decisions. And there are two other scenarios which I've come across. One is when you have had a recent breach. Um, it's clearly an indication that the security measures you had in place at that point in time were not enough, and there's an imperative to better your security posture. And if you don't know how to do it, a health check would again play an important part in there as well. um, Lastly but not the least, the another scenario is where you have mergers and acquisitions, where bigger organizations would be acquiring smaller businesses, and they might want an independent assessment of the smaller businesses' security posture. And again, they might rely on an independent party to do a health check for the smaller business before the acquisition, right after the acquisition, or just in the decision-making process of the acquisition. So these are some of the common reasons I have seen clients doing health checks.
Great, thanks, Reshmi. So, how much would a health check cost? And obviously, this is quite an open question because organizations vary in terms of
Yeah.
size. But how much would it cost?
Look, it really depends on the complexity of your business and the actual number of stakeholders that we need to interview. But from my experience, I can say that a health check is not very expensive, and it provides a lot of value add to the business. Um, if if we are looking at a ballpark figure, maybe a small business can start at about $10,000, and if you're talking about a larger enterprise, maybe it can go up to $20,000 to $30,000 for a health check. But the important point to understand here is that it provides a lot of value to the business. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get the results that you need, and the turnaround time is so quick. Maybe in 1 or 2 weeks, you get the results for you to take the right decisions.
That's great. Thank you for that, Rishmi. So, in terms of uh, once you've done the health check, what are the next steps?
Um, the next steps obviously would be, not to forget about the health check and shelve it somewhere so that it's just dusted. It's crucial that you carry out the assessments on a periodic basis to see how you are tracking with the risk. How are you managing the existing risk that you might have had last year? Are those risk levels still acceptable? Is it increasing? Is it going down? And depending on the way your business might have changed in operating, you could have added a lot more risk to your business. So it's imperative for you to understand how are you managing the existing risk and are you adding any new risk to the business. And when I talk about the frequency of health checks, it again depends, but the best practice is usually businesses do it on an annual basis to track their risk, but some clients I've seen they do it every 2 years, which is fine as well, depending on the risk appetite of the business.
Okay, great. And Rishmi, in terms of conducting the health check, how do you actually conduct the health check, and how much disruption is it to the organization? Because I'm assuming there would be a significant number of stakeholders involved if you're looking at the entire business.
Look, if anybody wants to get a health check done, first they can reach out to us, and then we take the time to understand the business and the operations, the requirements, etc. Even though the best practice standards that we assess against are same, but no two businesses are the same. There are intrinsic operational differences and cultural differences as well. So we take the time to understand what the requirements are. Then we would be giving a proposal, and if the proposal is accepted, there might be a 2 weeks lead time to actually kicking the ball and start doing the assessments. So when we are doing the assessment, it's rather speaking to some of the key SMEs in your business. It's interviews. Since it's COVID these days, most of the assessments are remote. It doesn't cause a lot of disruption, but when we can, when this whole COVID is gone, when we can, we try to come on site and do the assessments in person, because nothing can replace the value of face-to-face interactions.
Yes, that's definitely true. You definitely get value in being right there where all the operations are taking place.
Right.
Reshmi, that covers the questions that I had prepared for you today. Are there any other key elements that you'd like to sort of leave for our participants today in terms of the health check before we dive into obviously questions from the attendees?
Um, I think it's imperative to understand where they want to be. At least think about security. Think about security and privacy. I can remember from one of the recent clients that I've worked with. Um, they are based. They are actually a legal firm. They had been in business even before the advent of internet. They had been in business for more than a century, and many of them weren't even aware of what security is. They did a security awareness training with us, and they realized, oh my god, these are some of the risks that we could be exposing our business to, but they didn't know where to start, and they went ahead with a cybersecurity health check because it was a quick turnaround for them, and it was low investment as well. And they realized that after the health check, it added a lot of value, and it gave them a clear strategy of how to execute on a practical roadmap to uplift their security posture. And one of the recommendation was, if they didn't have an information security management system itself to identify the risk and manage the risk. And we helped them in their journey with ISO 27001 certification, and successfully they now are certified, and they might be looking at implementing ISM controls and building it onto their ISMS, which is again turning the notch up for security, I would say. So these are some of the actual instances where I've seen how health checks could be much beneficial than you might actually think they are.
That's great, and thank you for sharing that. I think it really helps to get an understanding of a client story and how you, like you said, help to execute their business strategy following the health check. I have a question from the audience, and it is: which seniority of stakeholder do you typically like to speak to when you conduct health checks?
Oh, that's so there are like different approaches when we talk to the business, right? First, we want to be understanding what various business functions are. So in order to do that, we would be speaking to some of the functional heads or the SMEs who can walk us through what the business is, how the business operates, and then we would be also looking at the supporting business functions. For example, your main business could be in the printing industry, and you could be having supporting business like marketing function or HR. So we would be going and talking to some functional leads from all these supporting business functions to see how they might be handling your information and where are the plug-in points where they come into play. And once we understand that, we go a deeper level to try to understand how your IT system, IT environment is supporting your business objectives. So in that scenario, we would be essentially talking to any IT manager that you might have, any technical SMEs that you might have, to understand how the IT is supporting the business function. And then what we are doing is essentially looking at a holistic perspective on your business operations, the functions, supporting functions, as well as the IT in realizing the business objectives and trying to identify the risk and weaknesses inherently present in the system.
Great, thank you. And if another audience question is where are we located? And as I mentioned before, we are located right across Australia. So we have presence in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and also we have consultants that are located in Asia. In terms of having a consultant on site, we do have consultants available to come on site. And as I said, as Reshmi mentioned before, we always prefer to work directly with our clients in person, so we have a better understanding of how they operate their business on a daily basis. And that would be very beneficial to the organization. We have a big team as well, located in a big presence in Singapore for our Asia clients. Another question would be for you, Reshmi: how has COVID impacted security as a business priority? From what you see in the market, do people need more or less of it? What's your take on that?
That's a very important question to be asking. So with COVID, what I've seen with multiple clients is that they had to shift a lot of their workforces, to places where they never thought their workforce would be actually working in. So some of the clients, what they did was they did a whole lot of risk assessments to see what are the risks specific to just working from home, what are the processes that are not in place, what are the security measures which are broken, and they did a comprehensive risk assessment just for the scenario and started putting in place some of the controls to safeguard the information to enable people working from home. It's not that in this scenario you just cannot confine your people to work from a specific location. The business need to adapt, and technology is just an enabler for your business to the way that you should be operating. And COVID was an awakening call or wake up call for many to start paying attention to security and start implementing the right controls.
Thank you for that, Reshmi. Another question from our audience is, we mentioned that we have a presence in Singapore, and we also have a presence in Southeast Asia and Australia. Are we proficient in Mandarin and other languages? Yes, indeed we are. So as I said, our presence in Singapore is also there to service our Asia-based clients, and our colleagues there are proficient in various languages, and we pride ourselves as being a diverse team, both based here in Australia as well as overseas, and so we're the diverse cultures. And as Reshmi mentioned earlier, sometimes these are the considerations that are missed when conducting cybersecurity health checks, is the cultural differences that occur across geographic locations. So our team is well equipped to assist our clients with this. Are there any further questions coming in from the audience? Okay, I think that's all from the audience for today. Reshmi, you did sort of touch on your last few words when you gave us that very successful client story. Is there anything else that you would like to leave for us today before we close off?
Nothing that I can think of. But if anybody wants to reach out to us, feel free to do so. Just reach out to us on email or chat or on our website itself, and we are happy to assist in whichever way we can, taking the time to understand your requirements and successfully working together or try to solve problems together.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being our SME today, Reshmi. It was a really informative session, and I think the audience did gain some value from this. And as Reshmi mentioned, we'd love to continue the conversation. So if you'd like to get in touch with us via our social media platforms, or if you'd like to make a formal inquiry, please do reach out to us, and we look forward to assisting you and executing your security strategy. And as I said, if you have further questions about the specific session, I will be more than happy to assist you.
That's right. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everyone.
No problem. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Take care. See you soon. Bye.
Bye. Cheers.